Anybody ever heard of this term? And I'll make it easier. Who's heard of a carbon footprint? Right. So when you hear that word, or if you heard that word and you have any understanding of the meaning, can you help me? What is it? What are they meant? What are they talking about when they're talking about carbon footprint? Okay, good. Production is a good word. So how much carbon is released during the production? Or more than that is how much carbon can be wasted during the production. Because you're calculating a footprint, you're calculating how much am I using and how much is wasted in that process. When you talk about an ecological footprint, it's the same thing except maybe in reference to another resource. So Earth provides you with specific resources. We learned this yesterday. How much you use during a production of some good and the waste generated. And I'm going to underline the word waste because that should have been consumed and waste. When you are using something to create a good, how much is wasted in that process minus what you use, or what you use. It's not a formula. It's just a factor. What you gain versus what's wasted calculates your footprint. We're never going to have to do math on an ecological footprint. Thank God. We do have to do some math. And to sum it up, Earth provides you. You calculate what you use. Calculate is a strange word because it makes it feel like you're going to have to do math, but you don't. And what's wasted during that process. That's your ecological footprint. It could be for water. It could be for carbon during fossil fuel burning. Because carbon is part of a fossil fuel, and when you burn it, you release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So that's where your carbon footprint kicks in. And that's a term that's very popular because we are concerned with the Earth's carbon footprint because it is linked to one of major environmental problems. So I want you to be very clear. These slides were made a little weird and I didn't fix them because they're so pretty. But the root cause to every environmental problem is a result of overpopulation. So yes, problems have other factors that have influenced them. But because the world was so overpopulated, or has been for the last 60, 70 years, we have these problems. If you want to stay on this slide and list them, so you have one slide to look at. The root cause is overpopulation, which leads to 5 other major topics which we focus on all year. Okay? The first one is resource depletion. You could just write it right here. Number 1, resource depletion. Or leads to, and draw an arrow, resource depletion. We're going to talk about them. The second one, in no particular order, is pollution. We're going to talk, we have a chapter on land pollution, we have a chapter on air pollution, and we have a chapter on water pollution. We also have a chapter on land as a resource, air as a resource, water as a resource. Because they're resources. And organisms as resources. Then we have climate change, which is linked to the chapter with air pollution, but became its own chapter because it's such a big topic. Loss of biodiversity. And waste. I would say waste is part of every chapter. So can loss of biodiversity. Now, when you hear that word waste, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Trash. Who thought of something else? Last period, I got the most unique answer. Okay, trash is definitely, clearly. I'm showing you a picture of it. What's another definition of waste, though? When do you waste things? Instead of thinking of waste, when do you waste things? When you use something and you don't use it properly it could get wasted. Like you turn on the water to brush your teeth and you leave it on and you go to the closet, right? You're wasting water. So misuse. So there's a lot of correlation between these topics is what I'm saying. This is an introduction because we want to start opening up our minds to the topics we're going to be discussing, but we will jump into each of these all year. All right. So let's start with an introduction of overpopulation. What does it mean? What is the definition? I'm going to give you a way to answer that question. How would this class, which it clearly is, be overpopulated? Too many, we got, in my opinion, we got too many people. How would we complete that definition? Too many people? Not enough what? Space. That's the perfect. Resources is it. So too many people, not enough chairs would mean period C is overpopulated for this room, right? Too many people, not enough resources. We could be too many people, not enough water. Too many people, not enough food. Yes? Anybody know what the current world population is? It's 8. I'm going to put a plus sign here. I can never ask you this question on a test, so you could circle it and put that. But I did want to show you this because I think it was such a perfect opportunity to show you something. Current world population. Do you see this? This is Google, and Google is not always right, especially for this class. This was like the best lesson that could have ever happened in the morning. 7.9, that's what you're going to write down because you decide that the first thing Google tells you is correct, but it's not. So always look at a second source. Just look at one more and then say, oh, wow, this is different. Then now I'm going to look at a third one. If the first two are right, chances are they're right. Did I not ask you to look at 3? I'm not saying read through everything of 3 sources, but check your facts. The current world population is actually 8.171 and growing by the second. We will look at it again when we do the unit on populations, and we'll look at it again at the end of the year. Put a prediction in your notes. See if you can nail it. What's going to be the world population when we end this class? So that used to be an AP question on the test. Actually, the 1998 AP exam had that question. You know what it was? 5 billion. Yeah. I promise you it was a test question. I have that test. It was the first copy of an AP exam I ever got was 5 years after, or maybe it was several years after. All right. So now we're going to jump into the resources. We're going to, obviously, if we're going to talk about resource depletion as a major environmental problem, we got to learn what a resource is and know everything about a resource. We spend the whole year talking about resources. By definition, a resource, we already defined in last class, is anything that you get from Earth that you can use. I wouldn't say need, because some resources we don't need, but we use them. It would be nice if we only use things we need. But what is a perpetual resource? And there's only one. The sun, clearly. The sun is our perpetual resource. Shouldn't run out, right? If it does, the rest won't happen. So that's the bottom line. There's really 2 categories of resources that you have to know. And honestly, put a little note. I'm never going to ask you what's the definition of a perpetual resource. Out. Just know it. That used to be a top. Who cares? Without the sun, there's no life. Are we all in an agreement? Right? Can we find a way? I'm sure. We cannot. Yes? Because the sun provides us with our food. It provides us with the energy start of Earth, so we wouldn't be able to live here. Non-renewable. What does that mean? This term you need to know. Good. That's the perfect definition. Once you use it, you can't use it again. Once you use it, it's completely gone. In addition, there's limited quantities of this resource on Earth. And then there's a third part to the definition, which is, can they reform? Who says no? 2 people. I know there's more of you, but you're questioning. Who thinks they can reproduce? They can reform. You're right. They can. They will take a long time. So there's two things you have to know. If this is a non-renewable resource, when I use it, it's gone. Okay? Can this replenish on Earth? Maybe in my lifetime. Maybe. Examples are minerals. Give me an example of a mineral that is valuable to you, that once you use it, it could run out. Oxygen. Yeah, that's matter. It'll reproduce. Salt. I can't believe you said that. I said that last class. Nobody said that. It's true. Imagine life without salt. You think salt can run out? It can, because it's a non-renewable resource, right? Hopefully not. All right. What are some really important non-renewable resources that we rely on every single day? Oil. That's what powers your car. You rely, except those of you that have a Tesla, right? Or an electric car, which is coming up as our future. There's more to that future, but what else do we rely on every day? Which clearly is not working right now in this room. AC. How does AC get powered? Not in Florida, but it can be. What powers the AC of this? Who do you pay your AC bill to? Anybody know that? It's great to be you. Florida Power and Light. Yes? You've heard of FPL? You've seen their trucks when the electricity goes down. They work hard to fix it. How do they get electricity? Nuclear, sadly. That is correct. How else? What's this rock here? Coal. We have coal-powered FPL plants. And what's the last one? How does this fire form? What is this little flame? Which is natural gas. So you want to make sure to use the word natural gas, because you think gas is your car. Your car is oil. Petroleum makes gasoline. Natural gas is the third fossil fuel. So this is fossil fuel number 1, fossil fuel number 2, fossil fuel number 3. And we use all three of them. This one for transportation and these two for electricity. And nuclear is also used for electricity production. In the state of Florida. You know where our nuclear power plant is? Between Key Biscayne and the Keys, right there, right off the water, is Turkey Point, our nuclear power plant, which may close someday. Renewable, what does that mean? Grows back, I like that word. What else? It can be used more than once. It never runs out. It is recycled. Grows back is a good word, but it is recycled. Any resource that can regenerate is a renewable resource. Examples: water, soil. I mentioned soil because we hope that resource renews itself all the time. Organisms. Yes? Definition of a species, you're supposed to reproduce. Pass on. Can this go away? Can an organism go away? Yes. So, and I made this its own slide. This is this little part right here, which I'll show you what it says. But I want you this needed its own slide. Resources that are renewable, like water. If you abuse water, and by abuse I mean overuse to the point of slightly running out, degrade it or pollute it, it could become potentially renewable. It could be borderline, we're in trouble, this may not come back. It's happening with food, it's happening with water, happened to species. Of course, there's many variables. I would say the key variable being this, but it's just not enough of it. All right. Who's the world's biggest abuser of resources? The United States. So who knows what the most populated country is right now? Right? Today I checked. Guess what? It's not China. It's India. And I thought, so between India and China, there's 3 billion people in the world, okay? India has like 1.4 and China has 1.37. They're always, it's every year I could check back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But the thought of India being more populated than China, if you're geographically impaired like I am, go look at a map and look at the size of India and look at the size of China. They have to struggle so much more. We have 300 million and we use more than they do. Isn't that crazy? We'll talk about this 5 Earths thing in a minute. I'm going to stop here though. So tragedy of the commons. There's very few people you have to know in this class, but Garrett Hardin is one of them. He is the person that kind of put this idea into play, right? He said that in this world, any free land, which he calls commons. I'm going to ask you these questions. So I'm gonna, remember I told you I tell you all the test questions on a video? So this question will be worth 3 points. And in order to get the 3 points, you have to be very clear to tell me what a common is. What's a common? Give me an example of a free land. A field back in the day, right? Like in today's world, is there any such thing as a free land? No, but remember you used to claim your land, right? And this is my land. And that could have been a field. What else could that land have been? What? A pasture. It could have been what? Forest. It could have been, right? All of these lands, we had free access to them. And when you have free access to these lands, what do? I heard things. What? Ruin them. How? How do we ruin free land? We destroy it. We use the resources. And we do it until the point where it can't no more. And a great way to understand this is cows. So we always want to use us as an example, but use cows. If you give cows land, which they had, free land, what are they going to do? Eat the grass until there's no grass left, and then they move on, right? Can the grass regenerate? Once they leave, it has to go through a whole process. It's supposed to regenerate so easily, but because they abuse it, it takes time. What is a great example of tragedy of the commons that we've experienced in our lifetime that led to serious restrictions? Wow, that is a true one. I'm going to pause. Where do people form life? Back in the day, if you were a nomad, what were you looking for? Caves? I heard it. Water. You look for water. Life started around water. What was in water? Food. 70% of Earth is oceans, and oceans had our food. And did they have restrictions back in the day? You went out, you did what you got to do, fed your family, fed everybody. And before you know it, what did that lead to? Restrictions. And to get fish now, specific types of fish might not even be possible. Oceans are a perfect example of tragedy of the commons. You went out, you fished, you brought your fish home, and you did it and did it and did it to the point where fish couldn't regenerate, and some fish still can't, and that's tragedy of the commons.